What's your name, occupation, and age?
My name is Urquizo. I work for Smart and Final, and I'm 32 years old.
Who initially introduced you to wrestling?
So, when I was 5, well, all my older brothers wrestled. So my mom put us in because it was easy for her, because I didn't have a choice. So I was pretty much forced into it. So that's what they were doing at the time. So it was easy for my mom to commute, go from there to point A. But my brothers are the ones that introduced us to, or introduced me to wrestling. Tito, to be exact.
How long have you been wrestling?
So I started when I was 5. I stopped competing when I was 19. But if you still want to count, it's 5, 20, 32, 27 years I've been wrestling.
How was your experience as a youth wrestler?
I would say those are the best years because it came to a certain point where I stopped caring about medals. So when I was young, that's all I, always wore my medal, my singlet, So it was fun. And then wrestling with the kids, I wrestled with a lot of kids when I was in the youth and grew up wrestling them in high school. So that's another thing why I'm always going to remember youth wrestling.
What was your high school wrestling experience like?
I loved it. It was tough at first, freshman and sophomore, because freshman you go in there thinking, okay, I'm right here, but then you wrestle seniors and juniors that are a lot tougher experience, got more mat time. So it was a good and bad. I got my ass whipped a lot during freshman year, but junior and senior year, it was probably the best 2 years of my high school career, junior and senior. But it was a good experience.
How was the Merced wrestling culture?
So he was my coach when I first started. So he's like a father figure to me. He was real tough. Like I say, he was a father figure. So he was tough on me. The way his coaching style back then is a lot different now. The way he talked to me. My mom gave him permission to be tough on me, to talk a certain way, because I lost my dad when I was young, so he was always a father figure in my life. So at a young age, he was always tough on me, and in high school, he was even tougher because our expectations were the same. I was his first state champion, and I wanted to be the state champion. So he a lot and was hard on me, but it paid off at the end.
What was it like competing in high stakes matches?
So I felt like I thrived in like the semis, and in the finals. My senior year, I was always in the finals pretty much. But I felt like I thrived in those, in those situations. A lot of people, I felt like a fold, when they're under the lights and it's just them two in the finals. A lot of people get, kind of get nervous, but I thrived in those situations and in those positions that, going into overtime, I felt like I thrived, because everybody's watching you, and I that kind of, pumped me up. So I felt like I would thrive in those situations and being under the spotlight, as you could say.
What was state like?
So I've been there twice. The first experience, was probably one that I'll never forget because I watched my brother Steve take third, and I told myself, I'm gonna be here. And my first experience was, I was in awe. My first time going, I went to the finals and lost. But my senior year was a great experience too. Going in there, ranked number 1. Having everybody. I know everybody was gunning after me. But the experience is fun. You got everybody in the state of California. It's just one state tournament. In other states, it's 16, 8. different state champions. In California, there's only one. So, and with that stiff competition, you put yourself up there with the best of the best in California. And California is known as a tough wrestling state. So, it was a fun experience. Both times I placed that I made it to the finals too. So, for me, it was a good experience.
What was it like being a state champion?
Man, it's a different feeling. Leaving school, everybody would call me by my last name, obviously, because of football. But they'd call me Urquizo. Coming back, everybody was calling me, champ. And that's just a great feeling. I didn't stamp it. People are, hey, what's up, champ? Hey, champ. The whole school. And I had a lot of family and people from the school go and watch me in the finals. So, it was just a crazy experience. 1 week it's like, Urquizo or Chris, then the next week it's, hey, what's up, champ? It was just, you become a different person. You're a champ now. And that's always stuck with me till this day. But man, and it was on my 18th birthday too. So yeah, that's always it's gonna be a birthday and something that's always gonna stick with me for the rest of my life.
What is your most memorable match?
Man, I got so many, but I would say it would have to be the state finals. The last time somebody won it for Merced before me was like almost 30 years. So that's always gonna stick with me. That pinning them in the cradle. And my favorite move in the finals in a minute, 13 seconds. And like I said, I thrived in those situations or, in those matches. So I'm always gonna remember that. My yelling my last name, during the match after. But yeah, I'm always gonna remember that. The crowd, going crazy. But that's always gonna stick with me. That one's got to be the top one.
What is coaching at Atwater like?
I was away from the sport for, I would say, like 8-9 years. It's been a while. But coming back, you guys really brought me back into the sport. And giving back to the people, giving back to the kids, giving back to you guys, it's you guys really brought me back into the sport that I loved as a kid. And want to continue to what I was taught, and give it back to you guys. Everything that I was taught from my coaches when I was young, and Schneider, high school coach. Everything that was taught to me, give back to you guys. So I really love it here, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. To be honest, I tell my niece that, I tell my brother that I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Not even, the school that I started, I'd rather be here with a great group of kids that, like I got attached to you guys. I got really attached, and it really brought me back into the sport. So, I thank you guys, because if I didn't take the opportunity to come coach, I probably wouldn't even be around the sport, So, I really love it here, too,
What is your most frustrating match?
Oh, I would say the Doc Buchanan.
I called it.
That one's always gonna stick with me, man.
Can you explain why?
Controversial. That's why, at the end, the other kid was awarded points. So initially, I was thinking I won on the scoreboard, and one of the refs is like, there was a takedown, and gave the guy a takedown after the match. So. My argument was he didn't give me time to escape if he gave him a takedown, because I ended up losing by 1 point. But I thought I had won. So, that's one tournament I always wanted to win, because you get a cowboy hat, and it's a nationally ranked tournament. So that was just taken away from me, thinking that I won. It's just, it sucks. It's on YouTube too, so I watch it every once in a while and just think, like, man, that should have been my cowboy hat. But that one's always gonna, that one's always gonna stick with me too. That one's always gonna stick with me. Tyler Sheridan, that was his name too, from De La Salle.
All right, that's the last
That's all the
question.
questions. Thank
Yeah,
you.
man, that one's always. I was gonna say.